Got the DTs, do you?
I guess, but I'm drinking it. That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen some alkies who were actively drinking and still shaking. It's like, you better get that down quick, buddy. Yeah.
We had a buddy that he worked on the roof, and the foreman on his crew wouldn't allow him to start work until he had 4 beers.
Roof?
Huh?
The royal roof?
Did I just say he worked on the roof?
You did, yeah.
He's
always on the roof.
He did. He worked on the roof.
This roof, that roof, just the roof.
He was a roofing man.
I'm on the roof.
And his foreman literally...
That's where I belong.
He wouldn't let him start work until he'd had 4 beers, because before then, he
was a danger to himself and others.
And others, yeah.
I'm useless until I've had my 4 beers in the morning.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Other people have coffee.
Yeah.
Roofing men got their beers.
Don't talk to me until I've had my 4 beers.
I've had a 6-pack of Natty Ice. I'm just not myself.
I wish that old boys got into that the same way that women get into coffee, and just had all that merch, Instagram, keep calm and carry on posts. Just old boys do it. Yeah, that would really
wine 30 shirts and stuff, except for trash beer in the morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Breakfast beers. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe one day. I could definitely see it being a thing. Yeah. Well, hey, Airheads, we are here.
Oh, howdy.
We've been here for a minute. Yeah, look who's here. Look here, Cho.
Hey, everybody.
I got an audience out there.
Good to see you.
How about that?
Love it.
I'm Trae. That's Corey. This is Puttin On Airs. And so on this episode later, when I do the Venn diagram, fancy people and trash, today it's on depression.
Oh,
yes.
Depression.
Depression. Yes, favored by both rich and poor alike. Being depressed, all the rage right now.
I saw a tweet the other day that was like, it's only depression if it comes from the depression region in France. Otherwise, it's just sparkling sadness.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it does seem like sort of fitting that it's an easy word to pronounce all Frenchly.
Yeah, depression.
Depression. Yeah, well, anyway, depression, don't hit. Got some experience with it here in this program. So, yeah.
Were you doing this, or were you just pointing at me?
No, this.
Okay.
So we've got some experience.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen his internet videos, but got Dr. Depression over here. No, hell, I get the big sad, too. We all get the big sad from time to time, but we'll be talking about it, how it impacts wealthy people differently and the differing causes for it. Some common things will come up. We talked about drugs and all that. A lot of times the two go hand in hand. A lot of the impetuses, the underlying causes are similar, but still, it'll be an interesting conversation, I do believe. And then after that, we will have another rendition of this one's history, Professor Cho, right?
It is.
On the subject of
philosopher Zeno of Elea. It's going to be a hybrid of history with Professor Cho plus philosophy with Professor Cho. But it's definitely, I've got some history on the feller, and then I would like to...
Zeno with an X or a Z?
Z.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Because I was going to make a joke about, rednecks are afraid of that guy, right?
Yeah.
But it don't work if it's spelled with a Z.
No, it doesn't.
I know very little about Zeno, but I think I know one thing, but I'll save it.
Well, we're definitely going to talk about that one thing. I want to discuss a little bit about, what is known about his, upbringing in life or whatever, but then I want to get more into one of his more famous paradoxes and talk about that at length.
That is the thing that I think I might know, although I don't remember exactly how it works. Because I knew he had a paradox. He was big in the paradox game.
Huge.
Ain't easy to get a paradox named after yourself, I guess. I mean, you got to invent it. You got to invent a paradox.
For sure.
Which is that's got to be like the fucking, inventing the iPhone of being a philosopher, being a professional thinker about stuff.
Right.
If you invent a new thought thing,
I was about to say,
a paradox, it's like you've done it now.
It's the only thing you can invent. You're inventing something that is just a thing that was, and you just thought of it.
He's like, he's the first person to ever think that stuff.
Yeah.
We got a name thinking about that stuff after him.
Yeah, because he was one of them.
Yeah, all philosophers, they constantly...
I don't know about that.
Very sweet, yeah.
I don't know about that.
You ever thought about that? I don't know about that.
Sit there and think about it a little bit more.
Yeah, let's all sit and think about that.
Yeah.
And then pontificate.
Yes, though this was a pontificating ass motherfucker.
I feel like all them motherfuckers stayed pontificating, dude.
Oh, yeah,
that was really what the job was. Well, I don't know. Thinking versus pontificating, they definitely go hand in hand for philosophers, but they easily did as much pontificating as they did thinking.
Well, I think that you think about something for a minute. but if you go like an hour, you are pontificating.
Yes.
In my opinion. If you 5 minutes, that's
you got
just,
a tight 5.
Yeah, right. That's thinking
about your new paradox.
That's thinking. This motherfucker thinks.
Yeah.
All right. I pontificate. All right. I dwell even.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a type 5 on the nature of mortality or whatever you're working out this week.
Yeah.
Down at the philosophy club. Like, do they get together and think? Sometimes they
would,
right?
They would. I mean, we'll talk about this when I get to the actual thing.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, no, they would.
Because philosophers have always been kind of fascinating to me.
Me too, I agree.
Looking forward to talking about it. All right, but first, if y'all are watching these episodes in order, then you know on last week's Up Top, we were bantering about some odd French customs, and we got nowhere near all the way through the list. So
long-winded we are.
So I said, you know, we'll keep that going on the next episode, so that's what we're going to do. We're not going to rehash everything we said, but just to remind everybody, the customs we already talked about in France that we don't have elsewhere. Never take wine to a dinner party. It's insulting. Always arrive at least 15 to 20 minutes late, else you'll catch them in the midst of, you know, putting out the duck
bread
butt,
basket and duck butt. Yeah.
Number 3, kiss on the cheek a whole bunch. Just do it until you feel like you've done it way too much, and then maybe you've got there. Number 4, always say hello and goodbye, no matter how casual the conversation or situation is. Also, we have in no way fact-checked the accuracy of any of these.
No, of course not.
One thing we found on the internet.
That's what y'all are for.
It's what one thing we found on the internet said, this is how French people be, and we're like, let's shit on them.
Yeah.
So now, number 5, you will have to ask for ice. The French prefer to drink their water and soft drinks at room temperature or perhaps lightly chilled. So you will always have to ask for ice if you want it. And diluting wine with ice, sacrilege in France. Now, I definitely knew that second part. The first part doesn't surprise me because I felt like ice was sort of hard to come by in the UK.
Just regular,
over there.
Yeah, dude, for real, like regular UK.
They give you 2 little cubes. And it's just like, I don't know what y'all got against ice over here.
Yeah, it was not the standard. And it just probably goes back to that whole, like, you know, they like if they're drinking their beer warm, why the hell would they want anything else chilled, I guess? Like the one thing you think you would want the most cold and they don't. But like,
it's so wild to have entire cultures that just don't fuck with cold drinks.
I know.
I love a cold. How many full conversations with me and you had upon the virtues of a cold drink?
I mean, like, Trae, I'm not kidding.
That's my shit.
1,000.
I much prefer a cold drink to any other type of drink.
Yeah. I mean, if
it's cold outside, you want some coffee or hot chocolate, whatever, that's fine. But generally speaking,
cold drink.
Give me a cold drink.
I know rednecks, all the rednecks that are listening to our show know exactly what a cold drink is.
Well, surely the other ones have figured it out.
No, I'm just saying.
Pretty self-explanatory.
No, there's a cold drink.
Yeah.
And then there's a cold drink.
Cold drink. Yeah.
Like cold drink is like how nobody in the South says, get me a pop. They say, get me a Coke, even if they mean a different thing. But like when you're going to the gas station and you say, hey, anybody in here need anything? Somebody will just be like, hey man, get me a cold drink. And like usually if we're hungover, I take that to mean you want a Powerade, right? Or whatever. But like a cold drink is just, I just want a cold drink. Just get me a cold drink.
That's what I'm saying. Like the priority, the only thing that's truly important here is
cold drink.
The drink,
whatever.
The type is immaterial.
Cold.
It need to be cold.
It's spelled COAD. I think.
Cold drink. I need a cold drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One word.
I've definitely, cold drink. I've told this on our other podcast, but never on here, I don't think, because I know that it hits for you. When I was in high school, there was a bunch of like little trends that would come up where it would be like I remember one of them was like strike, strike, where like if your buddy said something dumb. If they realized they said something dumb, they had to go, oh shit, no strike. But
which was sort of like no homo.
But if they didn't say, but for being a
dumbass,
dumbass, yeah. But if they didn't say no strike and you caught them saying something dumb, you go strike, and then you get to smack the shit out of the back of their head or whatever, right? That was your right. You had earned it by calling them out on their dumbassery. We had other things like that.
We had shotguns.
That y'all,
but not for
the car?
Yes, for the car, but it applied to everything. So, like, of course, it started out in the car. And, like, it's so funny thinking back about, like, how important it was for people to ride in the front of the car. Because, like, now I'm just like, I don't give, as long as I'm not in the fucking middle, I don't give a shit.
Paramount, dude.
But back then, shotgun, and do you know why it's called shotgun?
No.
Because
never even thought about it.
Back in the old Wagoneers days, the person that sat beside him would have the shotgun to shoot the exactly. Yeah, so that's right. You're riding shotgun. Yeah. You have the shotgun. So
you're on Indian duty.
But like so. Here's what it started at cars, shotgun, no, and you had to say no challenge, because if you just said shotgun and somebody said challenge, it was either rock, paper, scissors or a foot race or something.
Shotgun lawyer out there.
Yeah, exactly. So you got to go shotgun, no challenge, which is like no strike. Then that started evolving into other facets of our life, which was like if we all decided that we were going to go home and play NCAA, football 2004, somebody would go shotgun first game.
Yeah,
shotgun
no, actually,
first game.
We did do that.
Okay, I don't know if you got this insane with it. It got so bad at a point where we would just be at a restaurant and we would get our food and one of our buddies would just go, shotgun, no challenge, I get your burger.
Well, that's actually...
And then you had to let them just eat your burger and you got nothing.
I want to talk about a couple of these, but that's funny because the one I was leading to, because it's relevant to this conversation, is the silliest one that ever came up. And in my school, all of these originated with the black kids in our school, naturally.
Yeah, because it was funny.
They were the trendsetters.
Groundbreaking shit.
All the cool, trendy things. They always started with the black kids in our school. And I remember one that came up with once that I always thought was the funniest in retrospect, but at the time, nobody second-guessed it. Nobody took any issue with it. We just rolled with it. Was they came in one day and was like, hey, there's this new thing, y'all. It's called First Drink.
First Drink.
And like basically the whole game, the only rules were if your buddy walked in with a cold drink, you go first drink, and then you just get to drink their cold drink.
Yeah, the whole thing, or just
just the first one.
Right. Well, see, in my situation,
drink,
right, that is the hitness drink. It's the opposite of last drink. Last drink don't hit.
Right.
But like, I mean, there was at least just one sip. Ours were like we would take entire meals from each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love first drink. Me and you first drink.
Yeah, we do. We do first drink.
I like first drinking.
It does hit. Sorry, I got something going on in my throat, but I'll be okay. Anyway, a couple other ones. There was safety and doorknob.
Yep,
fart games. So when you farted, you had to say safety. If you didn't say safety, your buddy could go doorknob, and then you had to run and touch a doorknob so that they would stop whipping your ass.
Yeah.
As soon as they say doorknob, they start punching you.
And they can hold you down.
Start punching you until you got to a doorknob, and then they'd have to stop.
Yep. And by the way, I found out the hard way that the car door doesn't count.
Yeah, that's a door handle.
It's a door handle. I know, and I found out the hard way. I had to one time. I farted and got called doorknob, and we were like in a parking lot, and I had to sprint to like a neighboring building that had a doorknob so that they would quit pelting me.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it'd be like that. So anyway, kid shit.
Yeah.
Any reason,
just good fun.
Any reason to slap each other around and call each other
queers. Yeah.
Yeah, or steal somebody's food or drink. Anyway, all right, number 6 on the list, weird French customs. It says, the art of downplaying a compliment. And I feel like there's plenty of Americans who have this. I'm like this, but apparently all Frenchmen, according to this article, they're really bad. They don't.
Don't be humble.
Accepting no, you'd think that, right?
Yeah, right.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right. They have trouble accepting a compliment. If you compliment a Frenchman, they're going to hit you with something like, oh, not at all, you're too kind.
Yeah.
This see nothing of it,
Yeah,
like
fucking, this baguette?
Yes, it was no trouble at all.
Right.
Like, so, I feel like in America, it just depends on the person.
For sure.
Some people are real good. Like, you've literally, like, almost yelled at me before, like, just take the fucking compliment.
Yeah. Oh, and for the record, people have yelled that at me a lot. Like when I'm at home and somebody...
I'm pretty bad about that.
Dude, me too. Like I've been talking to buddies or something, and they were like going to compliment me on like, I don't know, one of my videos or like when we sold a show or whatever. And they would say something, and then I would launch into this thing, and about 5 minutes into my tirade, I can see the visible disgust and exhaustion on their face.
I really wish I wouldn't have given him that compliment.
I mean, I thought it was cool. I don't know what to tell you. Whatever. You're right. It sucks.
Yeah.
Your life's fucking horrible.
Yeah, right. All right, number 7, they are, according to this, chivalrous to the end.
That's not what I've known about the French.
No, again, based on like cartoon skunk French, which is where I get most of my French facts from.
Yeah, right. They are rapey.
Yeah, yes, they touch rapey. But this says French men are often quick to leap to a lady's aid, whether it's opening a door or helping her with her coat. Very importantly, this unsolicited and sometimes surprising assistance should only ever be interpreted as an example of French galanterie.
So it's
Galanterie, which is like,
it's not like afterwards they're going to be like, now you should give me the pussy.
Yes, I demand it. Yeah, I don't know, but I feel like I don't know that you can just say that and have it be the rule. Meaning like that thing at the end where it's like, listen, it's very important that you always understand that this does hit for you.
Yeah, right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because like I know some women differ on that. Because like in the South, fucking that's always been a thing.
You better hold a door
Pulling
open
out
for a
chairs,
woman.
holding doors, all that stuff.
Don't
And I know
hit 'em.
there's some women like that don't hit for them.
Yeah, right.
You know,
no, it doesn't.
Right.
And if
They're
you,
like, you know, I don't need, they find it condescending or whatever. Like, I don't need you to treat me that way.
Here's what I've always said too, because I remember when I was in New York, which was the first time that I'd ever lived anywhere other than the South. Like I'd been to other places, but I never lived anywhere. And like, yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir.
It's
was just a huge
default.
And for the record, I'm not about to get into some pronouns thing because it wasn't that. This was 2015. That hadn't been invented yet. But it was like I would just like if I was at a bar and there was a bartender and they'd be like, "What you want?" And I'm like, Coors Light. And then hand it to me. I go, "Thank you, ma'am." And they would just be like,
yeah.
No. And I was like, "What?" And they were like, "You don't call people ma'am." And I explained to them, and this is still the creed that I live by. In the South, if you make the mistake of not saying ma'am to someone who really wants to be called ma'am, that shit is horrible, and you're about to get a talking down to. So I would rather err on the other side. Like, you don't want to say, I remember when I was a kid, if you said, "Oh, thanks, man," to like someone's dad, it's like, that's sir.
Yeah.
And that's one of the worst receiving ends of something you can be on when somebody's like, "It's sir." So like, I'm always just like, tell me later you don't want to be called that, but until further notice, that's what you are.
Right.
I think there might be also one thing with ma'am is like
It's old.
an age thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
they think
It's
you're calling them old or
yeah,
whatever.
right. Which I'm not. Like, I call girls younger than me, ma'am.
I know. Well, see, I'm saying, and I feel like in this country again, like I just found it was funny that they're like, listen, no matter how you might feel about that, like it's okay and it does hit.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like that's just what the French do, and it's
Right.
like, well, that's what we would say too.
Exactly.
But I don't think it would play.
Yeah, right.
Like the French are just like, no, you enjoy it.
Well, the kiss
you know?
thing too.
Yeah, right.
Like I've seen, remember when fucking, not to get political, but when Anthony
Cuomo.
when like he was like getting in trouble for kissing
Uh-huh.
all his aides and stuff,
His
and they were just
defense.
like, "It's an Italian."
I was about to say, like
Yeah.
his defense of the sexual misconduct allegations was, "I'm Italian."
What are you gonna do?
And a fair number of people are like, "All right, damn, yeah."
But
man,
though, in my brain though, like now
they do also be like that.
Now
so.
he's been in America long fucking enough to know, but
Right.
like I do think like if now if a random man I introduced him to my wife and they kissed her on the cheek, I genuinely would be like, I guess he's foreign and that's just what they do, and I wouldn't
Yeah.
give a shit. I wouldn't give a shit. I'm not my wife. I can understand a woman being like, "Hey, don't put your fucking lips on me. What are you doing?" But like, it has always been a thing where it was like, well, that's just what they do, so therefore we have to accept it. Nobody ever accepts the shit we do.
For sure. Also, I'm only just now thinking about this, but I feel like a lot of times fancy people, or at least in Hollywood,
They do
you
that.
see that a lot.
Yeah.
Fancy, like Americans,
me
they
and you
also
kiss.
do that. And yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but like,
We
I'm
boys.
saying they do it in the way that like
Yes.
The French do it.
Yeah.
Like how many times you see
Rich
somebody go
super.
out on a late night talk show or
Yeah.
something, and it's, you know,
Yeah,
the
Johnny
kiss.
Carson did that. Richard fucking Dawson used to
That
kiss him on the
motherfucker,
lips,
dude.
open mouth, bro.
Yeah,
That shit was
That
so
Family
goddamn
Guy
funny.
scene where he
Yeah.
comes up and he's like, "Okay, just gonna grab that."
Get
He
right
puts his
there
hands up her
and,
shirt, grabs
yeah.
one tissue, get that one
Honky,
there. All
honky,
right,
there you
now
go.
something you might hear in a park. 3 seconds.
Dude, it's so funny because like I watched that show so much when I was a kid because Game Show Network had first come out and that was my granny's shit. And like I was like, oh, Richard Dawson, that's his thing. He kisses people. And at the time it was just whatever. And then like I went back and watched it, and bro, it wasn't just like, It was fucking straight up
it's egregious.
on the mouth, and like, good for him, but like, dude,
Good for him.
and everybody's like, oh, you couldn't get away with that nowadays. It's like, no, but with good reason.
Right.
Like, now, granted, especially after the first run, every woman knew, if I'm going on this show, I've got to kiss this motherfucker, and I assume that they could have been like, hey, don't do that. But I don't know. Back then you wouldn't, because then you'd be the bitch that wouldn't kiss Richard Dawson. That ain't it.
No, that gets you ostracized.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like Rich Super, good friend of ours.
Too good to kiss Richard Dawson.
Yeah.
Uppity ass.
Rich Super, good friend of ours.
Power agent.
Power agent. Yeah, look him up. and he does the kiss hello, and I like it. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, right on. This is a fancy thing. I feel important. We're high class. We're kissing each other.
Yeah, he also carries like little dogs around in his bags into bars and stuff.
He does.
So, you know, he's a bit of a wildcat.
Yeah,
but we love him though.
He's
Rich
great.
is great. He fucking kills me. He cracks me up. But anyway,
He's so funny.
number 8, feel like this one did not need to be included. These are odd French customs. This is like the one thing. Russ just had a picture pulled up a minute ago. Number 8 says, grab a baguette. And then it's just like, baguettes really hit for them.
Like to take to a party?
No, the whole entry is just like, did y'all know that baguettes really hit for them? And it's like, yeah, we all know. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oui, la baguette. You
Yeah,
know,
like
that's the first thing you go to.
Cigarettes, stinking,
this
and
dude's
skunks.
stinking. Yeah, the only thing that dude's missing is a cigarette. You know,
right.
You got oh my God, what are those hats called?
Beret.
Beret.
Beret. Thank you. Jesus, had a brain fart. You got the beret.
You got real upset about it too.
Well, I don't like.
Jesus fucking Christ! What's
I
that?
don't like when it happens to me.
That's your age
it
When
happens
I
to me
know,
so much.
I know a thing, but now all of a sudden I don't know it. Anyway, yeah, why is he making the like?
Do you think that's where the term berated someone comes from? Because it's usually someone that looks like that doing it.
beret?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe.
That
yeah.
motherfucker's really berating me, isn't he?
He really went full beret on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that mustache. That's
also,
yeah, of course
the
we knew that.
mime shirt.
Yeah.
Classic French.
Classic.
But what was the Red Beret guys? There was the Guardian Angels or
Che
something.
Guevara?
No, remember that? Guardian Angels?
I don't know.
I
I don't know much
about that
about red berets. Again, I just think about like, you know, the French.
The French, or one of the most badass men on the planet.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, baguettes, it hits for them. Who knew? Everybody.
Did you guys know that people in Italy like pasta?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Number 9, drink tea from a bowl, but only at breakfast.
Like a dog?
So apparently at breakfast and only breakfast, French drink their tea from a bowl.
With a spoon?
It says, no, I don't think so. It says out of a small
Crackers?
cereal-sized bowl. Don't a lot of the Asian cultures also, they do bowls, right?
Yeah, I
Little
think
bowls
so.
of tea.
Yeah.
I don't know the connection between them and the French, but just why
I mean,
wouldn't
it kind
you...
of makes sense, I guess, in terms of if you're going to have a lot of tea, like if you're going to have 3 cups worth, just put it in a bowl, because like, you know, I'd be although I would.
Well, as you know, one of my papaws did that with whiskey.
Yes, whiskey bowl papaw.
Whiskey bowl papaw.
Whiskey bowl papaw.
He drank a bowl of whiskey a night. Yeah.
But I will tell you this, though. I was going to say, like, well, it's the same as soup, but, like, if I do have, like, just a consomme, or, like, I'm sick and I just want a broth, I just put it in a mug. You know what I mean?
Yeah, me
like,
too. It's
like,
just
If
easier.
it's just the liquid, I just put it in a mug, because I'm not having
what
to, like...
is a bowl but a mug without a handle?
It's
in a
exactly
way,
that.
you know, like, and if
Yeah.
you're drinking it, not spooning it, why would you not want the handle?
Was Whiskey Bowl Papaws, was it a Pyrex bowl?
It was a Pyrex
because it had the
mixing
handle
bowl,
on
and
it.
it did have a handle on it,
Right.
yeah.
So he wasn't doing this. He was,
Pyrex mixing bowl. Yeah, I'm doing a bit about that right now. Whiskey bowl papaw.
What are the Guardian
Rest
Angels?
in peace.
Are they like a...
It's like
gang?
a citizen.
I love how I thought that was a gang.
Yeah, basically though, you know, you can look it up. There's all kind of stories. I think they've stopped mostly now because they were getting killed because they were out trying to stop crime.
Vigilantes.
And then they were just being murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see those dudes shutting down too many crimes. Especially that old boy in the front. I'm sure you got old man strength, but still. It also says Guardian Angels are back in Toledo, and it's like, is that a threat, or like, or is that meant to be reassuring? Fret not, people of Toledo.
I love
these dudes are back.
I love thinking about that old dude in the front crossing the city limits of Toledo with the song, "Now You're Messing with a Son of a Bitch." Playing. Oh my God.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't know anything about them until Russ brought them up. Maybe they are badass or head to toe legit. I don't know. This picture feels like not the best representation. But again, that old man whooped my ass. I guarantee it.
I was gonna say that berets, aside from the green berets, are usually associated with just the French and not hitting. It's kind of a pussy hat. But like now that I think about it, like there's a lot of back in the old military days. In Europe, there was like a beret was always on a bad motherfucker. You know what I mean?
I feel like the picture that gets shared the most of what is wrong with me today? The famous safety, Pat Tillman. The most common picture you see of Pat Tillman is him.
Was he a green beret?
I don't think he was a green beret, but
No,
he's got a beret
Airborne,
on that
actually.
picture, and he looks cold as fuck.
He does,
I actually think that the red beret might be airborne. I'll have to check.
Okay.
All right, but anyway, yeah, no, dude, berets can definitely be badass as long as it ain't on a Frenchman.
Heard that.
Number 10, enjoy a long, leisurely lunch. Spend a restful hour in a Parisian cafe sipping espresso, watching the world go by. You'll soon realize the French believe life is best enjoyed slowly. The French approach is to slow down and connect over a leisurely lunch. Now, again, I know this ain't going to hit for either side when I say this, but we noted this in England, too.
Absolutely.
This is the thing the England and the French have in common. I know, again, that don't hit for either of y'all.
They don't like each other that much.
No.
Yeah.
The English and the French.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
They super don't hit for each other.
No, I know. I love that.
But,
yeah, when we went...
Yeah, in England, people were weirded out by us being ready to go after a solid hour, 5 hours.
Oh yeah,
10 minutes.
we went to this place called Fortnum and Mason for tea, and we sat
afternoon
tea, which was really sweet. And they brought us like this 4-tiered plate of like, you know, the bottom had sandwiches, then there was the scones, and then there was like patisserie shit on top or whatever. And like they sat it down and we were looking at it, and then they made the fundamental mistake of telling us that it was unlimited and we could have as much as we want.
Mm-hmm.
So we unhinged our jaw, housed that whole fucking thing to the point when like they came back and saw that it was all gone. I noticed the look of like, holy shit on their face. And then we ate another one, of course, and we stayed there probably for an hour and 5 minutes doing all that, drank a pot of tea, and then we go to pay our check and they're just like, are you leaving?
Yeah.
And we were like,
you've only just arrived.
Yeah, and we were like, and they was,
I got a fucking hour and a half ago. I'm American. I got shit to do.
Yeah, right.
Places to be, people to see, fucking deals to make. You know how we are. Time's money, baby.
Yeah, yes, it was all that.
Yeah, it's like I don't feel any of those things, but I've realized that they've still like permeated the way I feel about time and shit. Because I do think it's
lunch is quick.
It's a very much American thing. You got to be on the go. Like we're always in a hurry. And again, I'm not a time is money guy.
Fuck no.
But I was very much done after an hour and a half.
For sure,
I was like, why would I sit here any longer?
It makes no sense.
We can go do another thing.
We can walk and talk.
Yeah.
We both like Sorkin.
Yeah.
But
we walked to Buckingham Palace after that.
Of course we did.
Lovely.
My friend Chris, he spent a fair amount of time in Europe, and he was the one that kind of brought to me this phenomenon where he told me, he's like, in lots of places in Europe I've been, whereas in America, if we're going out, a lot of times to people that means like, we're going to go to this bar, we're going to go to this bar, we're going to go to that bar, we're going to go to this bar. He's like, over there, they don't necessarily bar hop so much as like they have a 5-hour dinner at the same place. He's like, where you drink the same amount, but in one place you eat and you sit there and that's your fucking night. And frankly, that does hit for me. Like because I don't like bar hopping.
See, I feel like it hits for me in theory,
I hate
but
bar
again,
hopping.
I don't know. I'm not arguing the bar hopping part. I'm just saying in theory, I would also be like, yeah, that could hit for me. But I feel like in practice, we never did a 5-hour dinner. But like, again, when we went to dinner, like, I don't know. I was just ready to go.
Because that was just me and you.
I didn't want to sit there for another 4 hours.
It was just me and you talking. And me and you we were going to spend the rest of our day together. If we're there with like 4 or 5 people.
Every day.
Every day. But I'm saying if we were there with like 4 or 5 people and we hadn't hung out with them in a long time, it might be like, hey, we want to catch up. Instead of bar hopping where we're barely going to be able to talk to each other and everything's going to be like, why don't we just sit here and drink? Because like it's like you having a cookout at your house. It's a 5-hour event. You all hang out. So like, again, with me and you, it's like, what's the point of us sitting here and hanging out when we're just about to leave and hang out? But I kind of get it with like a family situation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I do too. Well, listen, I hope this list and us making fun of the French is hitting for people because, again, there's 15 items and we're now 2/3 of the way through.
We're going to have to go to next
so
episode.
I want to do the final ones on the next episode, if that's all right with everybody.
That's wonderful.
Because I do think we need to move on. So,
by the way, I need y'all to know that before every single episode, when we have an up top topic prepared, Trae's like, we better have a backup just in case we're not able to fill this time. And I'm just like, I mean, we can, but buddy, don't worry about it. This happens every fucking time. And as y'all now know, this was originally supposed to be the up top topic for one episode, and it's now 3. So fret not, my baby child.
Also, this conversation has actually been going on for like a decade. It's
for
just
sure.
Recently had cameras on it.
Exactly.
that's true. That's a good point.
Y'all, the nights are getting longer, but the breeze, it ain't the only thing that's getting stiff. That's right, baby. We're talking about your wiener, because this episode is sponsored by BlueChew. Guys, we all know that confidence can take you far in life, and that's especially true in the bedroom when it comes time to step up to the plate, a.k.a. the nether/crotchal regions of the one you love, and that is where BlueChew comes in. Trae, tell them about getting a hard wiener.
I would gladly tell them about getting a hard wiener. BlueChew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead to get down, or you can just be ready to get down whenever a get down opportunity arises. It's up to you, but the process is simple either way. You sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. That's the best part of the whole dadgum thing. It's all done on the internet. Removes a lot of the awkward steps of the typical process. No more visits to the doctor's office. No more weird conversations, wiener conversations. You ain't got to wait in line at the pharmacy, run into your high school librarian. You ain't got to do none of that. Because BlueChew's tablets are made right here in the U.S. of A., prepared and shipped direct to your door in a very discreet package. Won't you tell them about your wiener experience, Cho?
My wiener experience has gotten so much better since 5 years ago when we discovered BlueChew. My wife is never letting me go back to my regular old weenie. You know what I'm saying? And here's the deal, guys. My weenie works just fine. It's just that my weenie works better on BlueChew. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to take it. I want to take it. Like, I could go golf in regular shoes, but I use golf cleats because it makes it a lot easier to navigate. You know what I'm saying? Makes it stiffer, makes me have a more firm grasp, if you know what I'm saying. So if you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform, chew it and do it. Have better sex. And we got a special deal for our listeners. Try BlueChew for, listen to this, free when you use our promo code POA at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping for the rock hardest wiener you and your loved one have ever felt. That's BlueChew.com, promo code POA to receive your first month for free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank BlueChew for sponsoring the podcast. All right.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Y'all think it's an appropriate time to talk about mental stuff. This particular episode, we've spent a lot of time talking about how depression comes for us all. We all have to deal with mental challenges. It feels like it'd be easier sometimes if life came with a user manual. I think that all the time, trying to navigate the minefield that is show business and the lunacy that I've chosen for my professional life. I often wish that I could just open up the user manual of life and turn to the page that says what to do today, tomorrow, going forward, but it ain't there. You can't do that. And it's like that for all of us, whatever your chosen profession, however you live your life. Life doesn't come with a user manual. So whenever it's not working for you, it's normal to feel stuck. We all understand what that's like. Navigating any of life's challenges can make you feel unsure, whether it's a career change, a new relationship, becoming a new parent. Therapists are trained to help you figure out the cause of challenging emotions and to learn productive coping skills, which makes therapy the closest thing to a guided tour of the complex engine that is you, which is why we want to talk to you about BetterHelp. Cho, you know all about BetterHelp, don't you?
I do, and that last part you just said there really resonates with me because I was able to get on medication with the help from my therapist at BetterHelp, but really it's that they took, medication only affects one part of the problem. Your how your brain neurons and stuff fire off. But with the therapy, I was able to recognize the triggers of what made me anxious and what made me depressed. And I sort of learned different life skills that almost seem like duh when you hear it, but you sort of just need an unbiased person to tell you these things. And I've been a much better person since then. I think you would agree, Trae, that I've probably been easier to deal with. I don't show out so much, as it were. I'm a more relaxed guy. And guys, talking to someone does not make you weak. Matter of fact, in my opinion, it makes you strong. It's you admitting that it takes, sometimes it takes a team. Your brain is a complex thing. It's not bad that sometimes you need help running it. You know what I mean? So do it. I'm telling you, BetterHelp helped me so much. My favorite thing too is that they matched me up with somebody from my home state that sounded like me. You know what I mean? So it didn't seem like, some stuffy Fraser Crane type. Like, this dude had my accent. I believed him. He'd gone through some of the same things that I did, and I found it very helpful. So as the world's largest therapy service, BetterHelp has matched 3 million people with professionally licensed and vetted therapists, available 100% online. Plus, it's affordable. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to match with a therapist. And if things aren't clicking, you can easily just switch to a new therapist anytime. I got lucky, but if you don't, you can try something else. It couldn't be simpler. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/POA. That's HELP.com/POA. BetterHelp, HELP.com/POA. Start feeling better today, guys.
All right, so Venn diagram, fancy and trash, depression. Another one of those things. Of course, it affects all of us, but I did find that actually, like statistically speaking, it's high. The rates are higher at either end of the spectrum in terms of wealth.
Super
like
dumb and super. Oh, okay.
No, not like. Poverty-stricken people obviously are like more likely to experience depression and mental health issues. It's like, that makes sense. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But also, comparatively, like rich people, fancy people are more. They are both ends of the spectrum are more likely than all the people in the middle,
right,
to experience depression, and it's for just completely, totally different reasons. But like. I found a thing that said CEOs are like twice as likely as the general public to experience depression, and all these like super fancy people. It's like as you go on either end of the scale, it goes upward. The depression rate.
Can I give you my theory on why that is?
Yeah, we're going to talk about it. So yes, give me your theories.
Okay, here's why that is. Because obviously sometimes depression can literally lead to you being fucking Charlie from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory's Papaw, just laying in bed and you can't do anything. You are paralyzed. You are terrified of the outside world. You have no energy. And I'm not making fun. I've experienced this. So if you have that type of depression and it's so bad that you can't hardly function, you're not going to be able to hold down a job, make a lot of money. Therefore, you end up becoming poor, and poverty then exacerbates that depression.
Well, yeah, I did find, because it said, like, as far as the link between poverty and depression, it said it goes both ways, meaning like poverty can cause depression, but depression can also cause poverty, right, because of all the shit you just said.
And on the other scale, and this is a part of depression. I've suffered from both forms of depression, but it usually manifests itself this way. You're so depressed that you think you're not worthy, and you have this insane void in your life, and you work your fucking ass off to fill that void and to feel something and to get the love from a crowd or your parents that you don't feel like
just two possible examples.
I'm just riffing. And therefore you work really, really hard because you think that achievements are going to be the thing that fills the void of your depression.
Preach.
And therefore a lot of depressed people are super successful, but not actually happy.
But it turns out it was more than that.
Yeah,
it didn't just fix it.
Fucking time.
Like, I thought if I started hitting, I'd stop feeling sad. But no, I'm just sad and hit at the same time.
Is depression like diabetes?
Your foot fall off? I don't think so.
No, in that, so there's diabetes that you're born with.
Yeah.
But can you like acquire depression?
Yeah.
Because here's my thing. I think a lot of times when people say they're depressed, they're really just sad, because depression is like an actual
clinical diagnosis.
Clinical diagnosis. Like, it's like when people are like, you know, I didn't get this job, so I'm depressed. It's like, no, you're sad that you didn't get the job. You're not depressed.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if like you actually could get clinical depression later on in life because of things.
Yeah, dude.
Okay, I didn't know.
Absolutely.
I didn't know. Thought you were just really sad.
But yeah, rich people, a number of reasons why they're, you know, have this inclination to be depressed. One of them is how they're constantly keeping up with the Joneses and comparing themselves to others, and nothing's never enough for them. It's always like, you know, you constantly ask yourself, am I a have or a have not? Am I a almost have? Like, oh, yes. No, can't imagine anything worse than being an almost have amongst the 1% community. But it does drive them crazy. You know, they get into this rat race. And again, you get something, you're like, he got something that hits. I need something that hits harder. Then you get it, but he's like, shit, that other guy's got something that hits even harder. Now I gotta get something that hits harder.
Right.
And it just never ends. So you cannot find satisfaction in anything.
This isn't resonating with me at all.
Sure, right. And then this one, I thought this part was like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I get what they're saying, but it also said like they lose touch with the simple things in life. It says, you know, there's a lot of like, there's something comforting about being a regular Joe, it says, you know.
Yes,
like,
I agree.
It says like you know, simple things like sitting down for dinner with your family and the discussion is about family stuff like Billy hit me or Sally stole my lunch. Those are the things that bring texture and joy to life. And I'm like, being hit by Billy brings joy to life. I don't know about
feeling
that.
something,
right.
Trae. You understand?
Getting your ass whooped is what life's all about.
You goddamn right. Where I'm from.
Yeah, I know that it brings joy to Billy's life.
Of course it does.
Hitting your ass, you know, it's for him.
I've never felt worse after I hit somebody. I promise you that.
Yeah, but it says, you know, those are the things that bring texture and joy to life, and rich people, you know, miss out on a lot of that because they're consumed with their career. They're not rich people are not sitting down to family dinners, and you know, if Billy hit somebody at that table, they just have him killed or whatever, and that, you know, it's like a whole different thing.
I feel like they just need to get some poor friends.
Yeah. Yeah, they could pay them even.
Yeah, right.
A lot of people sign up for that gig.
Put them in the yard like a hermit.
Garden hermit. Yeah,
exactly.
bring that back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Y'all seen my pores?
I do.
And then they would like compete with other rich people for like his pores don't hit as hard as my pores.
I didn't know the statistics on this. Like
I got a pore knows how to paint. How about that? His pores don't do shit.
I didn't know the statistics on this, but like everything you're saying makes so much sense because everybody that I personally know that suffers from depression either hits real hard or don't hit even a little bit. And everybody in the middle is just kind of fine with it. And it's almost like that's how you get to be in the middle.
Because, like, I mean, I'm not making declarative statements about how any of this works. Obviously, people in the middle can be depressed too. But yeah, it's this idea of like, on the lower end of the spectrum, like, you trying to survive, things super don't hit.
Right.
There's an air of hopelessness. You're constantly worried and stressed out about everything, fucking food, the light bill, like fundamental necessities of being alive. Yeah. You have to worry about.
You have no actual happiness in your life whatsoever.
Right. You have to worry about all the time. You don't have any choice. And then at the other end of the spectrum, it's this whole other list of worries that are very different, and I feel perhaps less severe, but still a whole other list of worries.
Depression's depression, regardless.
I just mean the factors that go into
the for sure. It's
like
easier.
I'd rather have the wealthy factors than but all the people in the middle, it seems to me like the number one thing is like having enough money to not ever have to be worried about shit all the time financially. Yeah. But like beyond that, more money ain't going to make you more happy
right?
Or less inclined to be depressed or whatever.
Because let me make a declarative statement right now. I've been depressed. I've suffered from depression my entire life. That's just a thing that I deal with. And it's way better now that I have money. Like by a large margin, you know what I'm saying? Number one, I can afford the treatment and stuff like that. But number two, like I don't worry about all those other things, so I can have more time to work on myself and shit like that.
Right. And another one, this has come up in some of the previous episodes when it comes to drug addiction and stuff like that. But like straight up, just people from a background of privilege, they're just less resilient about dealing with things.
Of course.
Because
this should be easy.
They've never had to deal with much, generally speaking. Did we talk about the scene from Titus on here?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
3 episodes ago.
Yeah, the buddy, you know, his toilet overflows.
Yeah.
He's like, is there no God?
Yeah.
You know, it's like that with rich people.
That's rich people when they don't get a cab.
Yeah, right. They're just not equipped to deal with adversity because they haven't dealt with as much of it. The industries they often operate in are fucking cutthroat and ruthless and nothing, you know, like, listen, I don't want to get into us bitching too much because I know people like don't want to hear it, but it's like in show business, you know, it's mostly nothing but
cutthroat
rejection
shit.
and failure over and over and over and over again. And I don't care who you are, that shit will get to you eventually. Just being told like you don't hit repeatedly
all the time. Yeah, for sure.
By the industry you work in.
Your entire
forever.
Other people decide your self-worth in this industry. Like you can pretend that that's not true, but like that is true. Like I'm very self-conscious about, you know, my body, my teeth, my hair, and a lot of things. And I've got buddies who like they also have teeth that don't hit. They're also fat and they're also kind of bald. And they're like, it don't bother me. I don't understand what you're worried about. And I'm like, I literally get my photograph taken for a living. Mm-hmm. That's why. I mean, I'm not saying that like, hooray for you that you don't hit and you're just fat, bald, and have shitty teeth. But like, I'm put on display. People fucking like comment when I gain 5 pounds or talk about how I'm bald. I'm in show business. I'm shown. You know what I mean?
Unfortunately, also like your style almost invites people to
for sure.
Poke fun at
I don't
you too,
do myself
you know what I mean?
any favors, bro.
You posted a picture of yourself while you had COVID, looking rough, and somebody said you looked like a hard-boiled egg that had been dropped on the floor, and then told, what did it say? Been dropped on the floor and then told that it didn't hit or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love you, buddy.
And it was pretty accurate. I mean, no offense by this. However, you resemble Humpty Dumpty with AIDS.
Yeah.
These are your biggest fans, too.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I invite that. But
we chose
but
we chose to enter the realm of the internet. Like, you got to know that shit's going to happen.
For sure. But hey, anyone saying like, well, you should have seen that coming or like you brought it on yourself, I'm sorry. But those are the same people that if someone compliments a fucking woman's titties and somebody said, well, what was she doing wearing that shirt? It's like, you or not, that don't fucking matter. You still don't talk about nobody's titties and blah, 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 blah. It's like, what was I doing looking like an egg in my bed? You know what I mean? When I'm in my bed, I look like an egg.
Straight up.
Straight up.
Get with it right now because it ain't changing.
It ain't changing.
When he's in bed, he's an egg.
I'm an egg.
He's an egg.
Yeah. All right, so some other things. Found this other article about it's written by a psychologist who specializes in ultra rich people. It's probably a pretty hitting gig in terms of the money and shit.
Yeah, for sure.
That's better. That's like
better than talking about poor people.
That's the hittingest specialty to have, I think, in that field. Anyway, and the whole rest of the article is like basically him saying secession is spot on in his experience. The show, the HBO show. He was like, these people are fucking miserable all the time. Some other reasons that he lays out are they don't, even the people closest to them, their family, their children and shit, they don't know if they can trust them. It's always something like, what do they really? What's their angle?
What do they want from me?
What's their angle? What are they trying to give from me? What's the ulterior motive here? Does this person? Everyone in their life, it's like they only fuck with me because I'm loaded.
Yeah,
you know. So like, I mean, and that would not hit to be surrounded by that all the time.
Now that Vince McMahon's out of the WWE, there's like all sorts of these rumors going around that like, and I don't know if I believe it or not, but having watched the show Succession, it's like I don't know that like. His daughter was the one that replanted the information.
Like she outed him for the sexual stuff?
Like she allowed something to become declassified from in the office or whatever because like he's getting old and she's been waiting for so long to take this job and now it's like, you know,
I don't know anything about their dynamic, but that seems super easy to believe.
I agree. I mean, again, I don't know if it's true or not, but like when I heard that, I wasn't like, there's just no way. Because it's like, yeah, those people, like, that's just how they be.
They also apparently at very high levels, they struggle with sense of purpose. And it basically comes down to them being like, I've already hit as hard as I could hit.
What am
like, how do I keep hitting now?
Yeah.
Like, you reach the top of your industry and you build a company that sort of like runs itself at this point. You got all these other people, and it's like, what am I even supposed to do?
Yeah.
I got a wacky idea that they'll never do.
Yeah.
Start hitting for other people.
Yeah, right. No,
You'd
that
think.
don't hit.
Sometimes they do, though.
Yeah,
sometimes they do
do.
dedicate their life to charity. Like Princess Diana did a lot of good with that. Like, I feel like she was rich beyond our wildest dreams, never had to want for anything. And I do feel like she was like, all right, with this privilege, I'll go shake a dude's hand with AIDS and change the world.
Another thing that comes up a whole lot is them and their kids. This part is something I've thought about a lot, even though I'm nowhere near like this level of rich. I still have thought about it. It says a lot of their clients, they indulge their children so that they never have to suffer through what I suffered through while growing up. I don't want them to experience the things that I experienced, but the unintended result of that is they prevent their children from experiencing the very things that made them successful: sacrifice, hard work, overcoming failure, developing resilience.
Trauma.
So these kids become overindulged and entitled adults who have low self-confidence, low self-esteem, no grit whatsoever. And it's like, I've thought about that. So like, I want my kids to be shielded from all the worst parts of my childhood, but when they be soft, which they often are, I'm just like, fucking, why are you so goddamn soft?
Yeah.
I don't literally yell it in their face, but I'll be telling Katie, I was like, they're fucking soft, Katie.
Yeah.
They're soft as toilet, and like, it's like, yep, that's because of you.
I was about to say, there is that, like, that's such a phenomenon, and I'm not claiming that you're guilty of it at all, but there is that phenomenon of, like, the same people who are like, I just want you to have a better life, will then resent you when you
for having it.
It's like, back in my goddamn day, and it's like, yes, and you worked really hard so that I wouldn't have to do that. Why are you throwing it in my fucking face? You could have made me walk up a hill 15 miles. Shit, I don't know.
Yeah. And then also it just talks about how, like, there's very few people in the whole world to whom they can actually relate on any real level, which necessarily leads to a lack of empathy generally. Also, they're free from consequences. You could talk however you want to everybody who works for you or works around you or whatever. It's like you don't realize or easily forget that, like, that ain't how
the world
people's
works.
Supposed to be.
Right.
I would imagine
you just don't know.
I would imagine it's even more isolating when you're famous too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, dude, gotta be. So, again, the reasons do make sense. And again, depression is depression. I know, because again, I've got plenty of champagne problems and they real to me.
Me too.
So
yeah,
I certainly get it. But again, I just feel like any of these poverty-stricken people dealing with depression would read any of these articles or listen to this episode or whatever and be like, cry me a fucking... How about you give me some of that money and then I'll still be sad but also rich, and I bet it hits harder than the type of sad I am right now.
Right. Again, though, and that's where, like, I have a problem with some of it, where it's like, a lot of people don't understand that there's a difference between sad and depression. And, like... if there's someone who is like, if there's some rich entitled motherfucker that, like, they lose a movie deal and then they, like, freak out and they're just sad because things didn't go their way, like, fuck that. But but clinical depression doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter. And, like, it's literally like this. My doctor was telling me, is like, your brain doesn't make the thing that makes a person happy. So, like, there's literally nothing that you could do or accomplish that would replace basic fucking chemistry. So, like, no matter how rich a person is, if they have clinical depression, I'm always going to have empathy for them. But sometimes it just be an entitled motherfucker that something didn't go their way and they get sad and angry about it.
Sure, but I feel, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I feel like kind of the way you're talking about it is, though, it's like, well, maybe that's what you meant when you were talking about diabetes. It's like, it's not just a thing. I'm not saying it can't be, but it's not just like a thing you're born with that exists in you're not just born with, like, you're going to suffer with depression or you're not. You probably can be.
Yeah.
But, like, environmental factors in the reality of people's lives play into them actually becoming truly clinically depressed.
True. I'm just saying
it's not
that
just a genetic thing.
I'm not saying it just is a genetic thing. I'm just saying, like, I've realized through therapy and stuff that, like, I've been this way my whole goddamn life.
Right.
There just wasn't a word for it, or it was suck it up, whatever. And like, it was like, maybe I am just like an entitled brat or whatever the fuck. But, like, literally the neurons that are supposed to fire in my head just don't fucking do that. Like, that's just not a thing that, like, I had panic attacks in middle school and none of us knew what to call that. Mm-hmm. Like, we didn't. It was just I'm having.
Cho's caught one again.
Hey, right.
He's having another fit.
That's
y'all.
it.
You know how Cho has his fits.
Having a fit. And again, like, dude, you talk about never anything bad happening to me in middle school. And that was my always thought of like, this is how I know depression is real, is because I've had panic attacks in moments when there's nothing that was going wrong at all, and it just happened. But like, I mean, obviously, I think that it can come on later in life, but I still think that, like, again, I think that, like, for it to be actual depression, it is like a chemical imbalance thing.
But the chemical imbalance can
happen.
From
stress,
the things you
trauma,
experience.
Yeah, right.
Dude, stress,
fucks your brain.
cortisol and
Yeah.
shit, that fucks your whole shit up.
Yeah,
your
for
brain,
sure.
your body, everything. So, like, yeah, it can absolutely come on later. It can
I'm not
come on
gatekeeping
whenever.
depression. That's
Right,
not what I'm
okay.
trying. That's not at all what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
It's just that, like, sometimes people are just sad.
Brain's a mysterious thing, you know.
The brain is a mysterious thing. I'm just saying, so, like, okay, I'll explain to you this way. We've been told no a lot in Hollywood, like a lot. We've had shows turned down. Never one time did that make me depressed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just like, whatever. But like,
For me, it's because I just expect that.
For sure. But like, on the other hand, some days I will have had something great would happen to us, and the next day I would wake up paralyzed and couldn't move because I was depressed. So like, it wasn't like a bad thing happened or a good thing happened. It's just like your brain's just like, fuck you, dog.
Yes, it'd be like that.
Corey, I feel like sometimes it's like when something good happens, there's almost can be a letdown because you're like, I thought this would make me happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, now there's definitely that.
There's whole episodes
for
of the
sure.
Well Read podcast where we go into detail about that whole thing, about how, like, I thought that my issues were a result of like me feeling like I wasn't doing the thing I was supposed to be doing when I had a day job and everything. I always thought it's like, if I go pro in comedy and I'm making my living doing comedy, like, that'll be it. That'll fix it. Didn't even a little bit fix it. Everywhere you go, there you are, buddy, as they say. Like, fucking, my brain, you know, it's still the same brain.
And it's funny too, because me and you still talk all the time about, like, when we make it, you know, we're gonna yada yada yada. And I'll be having these conversations with my comedian buddies who are like still doing open mics and shit, and they're like, "What do you mean when you make it?"
Yeah, you really got to watch that.
Oh,
shit.
you do for sure,
Yeah.
but you don't. Like, I can talk to you about a lot of other things. I'm like, well, this, and they're like, "Do you understand that you are everyone that is in this room's
You're 1%,
end game?"
dog. Yeah.
No, I know.
You're the end game.
100%, dude.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I know, like, when I hang out with my buddies back home and stuff, I'll catch myself sometimes where I want to just start bitching about the types of things me and you would bitch about. And
Right.
these are like my brothers. They're not going to be shitty about it, but like they
don't
don't
wanna
really want to hear all
no,
that
of course
stuff.
not.
You know?
Yeah.
Because they're like,
And-
I got laid off again. I
Yeah,
fuck, you
right.
know, whatever. It's like, I ain't trying to hear about how, you know, ABC paid you a lot of money and then told you to fuck off after that.
Yeah, that's
you know?
why
Like,
that's why our relationship is very special. There's just so many things that we can only lament to each other,
Right.
and because we're both depressed.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's about it on depression. We need to move on to history of Professor Cho on the subject of that feller Zeno who thought a lot. Zeno, the thinking man.
That's true.
Right after this.
Cue haunted music. Michael Myers sure is scary, but the last thing you need is to be hairy this Halloween. Luckily, our friends at Manscaped launched their 4th generation performance package to make sure your pumpkins get the ultimate carving experience on this spooky day. Turn your bite-sized treat into a king-size candy and join the 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code POA. Make the right call this spooky season. It's trick or trim.
I'm sure y'all would agree that trimming your balls can be a precarious situation. You don't watch it, you know, you get down there, you start messing up, and pretty soon your balls look like Freddy Krueger. I mean, I guess balls kind of always look like Freddy Krueger, but they'll look like Freddy Krueger if he cut himself shaving, you know, which a whole bunch, and that don't hit. Which is why you need Manscaped, because they help take all the guesswork out of it. I mean, have you ever tried to trim your balls and it turned into a Freddy Krueger movie? Well, Manscaped's here to save the day and make sure you're feeling your very best in your costume. Unlock your confidence with the Performance Package 4.0. Inside it, you'll find the holy grail of men's grooming items. It's a full moon out and the werewolf in your pants is howling. It's time to tackle that problem with the Lawnmower 4.0. Their finely tuned pube products feature a cutting-edge ceramic blade, to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 is easily the greatest ball trimmer on the planet. And did I mention that it is also waterproof? So this trimmer is a shower essential. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker, which is a complete game changer in your hygiene arsenal. The Weed Whacker is a nose and ear hair trimmer that provides proprietary skin-safe technology that helps to prevent nicks, snags, and tugs and all your most delicate holes. That's not all you get, though. Cho, why don't you tell them about Manscaped's liquid formulations?
Let me tell you something. Not only can your balls look like Freddy Krueger, they can smell like that sumbitch too, but not if you use the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and the Crop Reviver Ball Toner, which I am an advocate for both. It is absolutely tremendous, and I will tell you this, maybe they wouldn't want me to say this, but a little certainly does go a long way. I'm telling you, just a little squirt there on your fingers, rub them all over your sack, and it smells wonderful, because y'all know that balls start smelling like balls about 5 minutes after you get out of the shower, but not with the ball deodorant and the Crop Reviver and all that good stuff. And here's what you can do. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code POA at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code POA at manscaped.com. Say trick or treat to your new beautiful Halloweeny with Manscaped.
Hey man, how'd you like a $20,000 raise? We can help you do that at savewithconrad.com. Don't take my word for it. Check out our reviews at conradreviews.com. We've got an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. We've won the #1 Best in Business award many, many times. And we just got a great 5-star review. That's from Jimmy E. He says, my wife and I just closed on our refinance after working with Diane and Steven. What a great experience. We closed within a month and added about $1,000 of monthly cash flow. Thank you. They were great. And who would have thought a trip to First Family Mortgage, an ad-free shows booth at StarCast 5 in Nashville would have led to this? LOL. Thank you. No, thank you, Jimmy, for believing in us. I know it's crazy. You're listening to a wrestling podcast and you're going to save $1,000 a month. Now think about that. Add that up over the course of a year. That's over $12,000 a year you're going to save. Now, how much money pre-tax would you have to earn to net $12,000? That's about 20 grand, right? And think about that. You would have had to work for that money, pay taxes on it, and then just give it away. Come on, man. Keep more of your own money. If you can hear my voice and you're in a 30-year loan, you've got a second mortgage, you've got credit card debt, you've got a car payment, what are you doing? I can show you how to keep more of your own money, get a lower monthly payment, and get out of debt faster. We're routinely helping our podcast listeners save up to $1,000 a month, just like Jimmy. Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com. Oh, and how's this for starters? No house payments for 2 months. That's right. A little fall break from house payments. Sounds good to me. Find out how much money you can save at savewithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket. And if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. One more time, savewithconrad.com.
What's up, y'all? We're back. It's time. You know what time it is. It's time for history with Professor Cho. Back in the seat, ready to teach
I'm here, baby.
us about that thinking man, Zeno.
That thinking man, one of these guys.
One of those guys. Here's the only thing I think I know about him, and I'm about to butcher this. But
That's okay.
I know he had at least one paradox that he invented.
Several.
Hopefully he got paid a lot for that paradox, when that came out. I don't know where the money came from for them, for all their thinking. Rich patrons, I guess.
Yep.
Anyway, some patrons like, that's good thinking there.
Yeah,
Here's
you go.
2 more goats, or whatever.
Damn, I sort of get paid for my thinking.
We do get paid for our thinking.
Out.
Yeah, but we have to
do stuff.
make a hit.
He just thinks.
Yeah,
right.
Anyway, it's something like Zeno's paradox, or the one I'm familiar with, is something like him saying, it was a thought experiment where he was like, okay, if you think about it, anytime you're trying to travel any amount of distance, you must necessarily reach the midpoint before you reach the final destination.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you go and you get halfway there, and then you go the rest of the distance, you get half of that distance, and then you go and you get half of that distance, and then you go and you only get half of that distance, and on. And thus, theoretically, it's impossible to ever reach your destination because you will only ever be covering half of the distance every time.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it.
I was always like, no.
Well,
you do get there.
Well,
but I probably just wasn't thinking hard enough.
I have a lot to say about that, but let's save that discourse for the end when I will read that paradox verbatim, because I have immediately some of the same thoughts as you do. And like I have those thoughts on like so many of the paradoxes. I'm just like, could we just not?
Right.
Like, could we just
like I get what you're trying to do, I guess, but like, we all know that it ain't that.
It ain't that. Like, yeah, but like just like so, and like now paradoxes do fascinate me. Like me and you, I mean, how many times have we been high just like sharing Reddit shit? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm obsessed with paradoxes. I'm obsessed with the Mandela effect. I'm obsessed with
space mess.
I'm obsessed with the Bader-Meinhof effect. I'm obsessed with a lot of these things that sort of take
stoner shit. Really,
I mean, yeah, for sure.
Neither you or I are stoners, but all that stoner shit. I'm
love
into
that,
it. Yeah.
dude. Like I've thought, like hell, at one point I wanted to turn our other podcast into the Well Reddit podcast, because I wanted us to just exclusively just go down Reddit rabbit holes and explore some of this shit, because I'm fascinated with it. And with paradoxes, it's like, oh God, it's like just when you think you got life figured out, somebody just like throws you a thing and you're just like, well, I mean, fuck, I guess nothing matters. So Zeno was one of these dudes who just was constantly, he was a thinker, AKA a persistent thrower of wrench in the spokes type dudes.
Right.
Who was just like, hey, I know we got all this stuff going on, but have you ever thought about how, nah?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And they were like, but yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, but if you really think about it,
nah.
No.
And they were just
like, I still think yeah. And he's like, did you really think about it?
And they were like, no.
Yeah, right.
I didn't. And he's like, well, I did. I thought about it a lot.
Yeah.
So this sumbitch, he was a Greek philosopher, which I think was
they had the hitness ones.
I was about to say, Greek philosopher is like New York comedian. You know what I mean? Where it's like, you can do it in other places, but like, we don't respect you if you don't do it there.
Right.
Like Greece was just a place where, I guess it was because Greece was so civilized that like
they had time for thinking.
There were people that just had
in
time,
between all the butt fucking.
Yeah, like back in those days, like you couldn't be in Albania and think. You ain't got time to think. You're gonna get hit by a rock
murdered
or
by
something
barbarian.
like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
There's barbarians around.
Yeah, I don't have time to think.
I can't be thinking. I think we need to get the fuck away from these barbarians. That's what I think.
Right. By the time it's time to think, it's time to sleep, so you can wake up and have the strength to fight off a barbarian.
Right. But yeah, but in Greece, like in Athens back in the day and stuff, you'd be like, you'd be like, all right, fuck a butt, think.
Fuck a butt, think.
Drink wine, think. Yeah.
Pull up, think.
Sit down, think.
Yep.
Go bed, think. Yeah.
All right, Russ, mark it down that we're going to do a philosopher version of Kendrick Lamar's famous hit Swimming Pools.
Swimming Pools, yeah.
I believe. Was it Swimming Pools? And then there's a parenthetical.
Yeah, which I don't remember.
Was it Drank?
Was it Drank?
Was it Drank?
Swimming Pools, Drank?
It was probably Drank.
Yeah.
He's a parenthetical motherfucker.
Parentheticals hit for me.
I love parentheticals. I use them in most every medium that I do. Every time I post a video, it's usually like I do the whole Birdman or the unexpected virtue of death or whatever. Like I do that with my silly shit.
I'm a parenthetical ass motherfucker. My favorite one that I've come up with is sometimes we'll do fake song titles or ideas for songs.
Yeah.
And my favorite one that I had was
she's a dick.
I'm hooked on her. She's hooked on pills. Parentheses. No. She's hooked on pills. I'm hooked on her. Parentheses and also pills.
Yeah. Yeah. Parentheses really do a lot of the heavy lifting in so many things. So he was Zeno of Elea. He was a Greek philosopher. He lived from around 490 to 430 BC, which frankly, I find that's not real. Like,
what do you mean, 60 years or what do you mean it's not real?
I'm just not sure that BC was a thing.
You're not convinced that anything existed before Jesus heard that, brother?
Yeah. No, when I just hear something that old, I'm just like,
made that up to make you question your faith.
Anything that's that old, I'm just like, well, then how do we know for the love of God?
That got brought up on a recent episode. Yes. Was all that really old shit? There is an element to it that's like, but we don't really know. It's like some thinking man said some shit, and that's all we got to go on. So,
what though?
and
Like
sometimes they find some bones in a pit and some old cups.
Well,
and then they're like, yeah, we can figure a lot of shit
let's
out
sit
from
out.
all these
Yeah,
old cups.
they must have done this. Yeah, he hit her right here. So I need to ask you about this because I'm not sure, and I could have looked it up, but I was like, no, I'll just ask Trae because that's normally what I do with like most information, my news, whatever. When did it start being BCE and not just BC? Because I see it now, it's BCE.
I feel like, I don't know.
That's the before Christ era.
20-ish years ago. I don't even know what I think it's the Common Era. I think
Before the Common Era?
I think the E came in from people being like, it don't hit that we
It's
frame all
Jesus.
this with the Lord.
It don't.
We should stop. But it's like Louis had a bit about how like clearly Christians won because the year
What
it
year
is
is it?
2017. Yeah, because Jesus
Was, but yeah.
2007 whatever, you get it. Anyway,
Okay, is BC and BCE
Before the Common
same?
Era, yeah.
Okay, there you go. Before the
again,
Common Era.
it's a secular version of BC. Right. So what
Okay,
I said.
well,
what I said.
hits
People,
for me.
scientists were like, we're tired of talking about the Lord.
Right.
We're still going to keep the system, and it's still based on the Lord. But
it was smart of them to be like, we can still use the BC part.
Right.
That was really smart of them. I enjoy that. Because, yeah, it is weird. Like,
But
okay.
see, but they did that, but then AD just turned into CE. Just
Right.
the Common
Well,
Era.
because AD meant Anno Domini,
In
which
the
was
year
the
of our
year of our
Lord.
Lord.
In the year of our Lord.
Yeah, right. So you can't do. I'll tell you what it could be. BCE before Common Era, AD, all this.
All this.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great.
That's what we're doing.
Hey, somebody write that to Big
All this.
Science.
Yeah.
Send a letter to Big Science. We got a better idea for them.
Ain't that it?
Before the Common Era,
all this.
Yeah.
No, I'm for that. Maybe we've talked about this before, but like, I know that in 490 BC, they weren't saying 490 BC. What do you think they said? Like, what was their way of saying what a year was? Or did they have it? Or were they just like, why would we give a fuck about that? Like, we're just out here. You know what I mean?
Dude. Yeah, I don't
Like,
know. It's just like the
Romans
maybe the emperors or something. I'm making it up. I don't know. But maybe it's like, this is the year of Augustus 14 or something.
Yeah, right. Like
they had to think it's like, oh, this new fall. Y'all remember old fall?
Right. We're at fall again.
This
is my
again.
second fall.
Yeah, maybe
Like,
they
that's
all had
how
their
old a
own-
baby was. He's 3 falls old.
He's 3 falls old.
Yeah.
They're like me, I'm 42 falls old.
'Cause, like,
yeah.
I assume that, like anything, it was like it came out of.
Year of the monkey or something.
Yeah,
like
but
they do in China.
But keeping up calendars probably came from like some sort of money shit because they had to understand like what the fiscal year was or like. So they're like, we have to keep up with time, because otherwise, you know, there's so many people, especially these type dudes, who like they're like, time? That ain't real. That's not a thing.
I mean, you know,
it's like, is it?
No, I mean, obviously, time, whatever, as far as space time goes, like time is a thing
we
but
made
the
up.
way we like
Experience
conceive it and experience it and talk about it is shit that we made up. Yeah,
'Cause,
because we
like-
had to have some way to make sense of all this time shit that's happening.
Do you know that, like, and I know that you know this, we probably talked about it, but not on here, but like, if someone was to get in a spacecraft and
Yeah.
they were to travel fast enough,
Yeah.
their watch would actually slow down or whatever.
Time dilation, I do not
I
understand
don't-
it, but the closer you are to the speed of light, basically the faster you go, the more time slows down relative to you.
Right.
So you're going the speed of light, you're experiencing time the way you normally do, but when you land again, it's been 200 years or whatever.
Right, which we've all seen that fucking
Interstellar? Yeah.
Interstellar,
Yeah,
which is
awesome.
wild as fuck and crazy
Yeah,
and a
but that
fucking
shit's real,
wonderful.
dude.
But that is real. Like, that's a
Have you seen
sci-fi movie.
Lightyear yet?
No, do
Shout
they do
out
that?
It's a huge plot point. in
Okay, is it
Lightyear.
good?
Yeah, it is good.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I figured it would be. It's weird
It's
because
not on that normal
hasn't been-
Pixar level.
Yeah, right.
But it's good.
Which, like, it's under the Toy Story umbrella, but it's not Toy Story 5 or whatever, because, like, those movies literally impossible to miss. Like,
Right.
all of them have 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. All of them make $1 billion or whatever, and rightfully so. Like, they started the whole genre of, it's for kids, but it hits so hard for adults, which is wonderful. And I'm sure that I'm about to learn to appreciate even more than I already do. But anyways, again, that's the time that he was around 490 to 430. He's probably best known for his paradox of Achilles and the tortoise, which I will get to later, it's the thing that you said.
Oh, okay.
It's Achilles. It's Achilles and the tortoise. He was a student of this philosopher named Parmenides.
Okay.
You've heard of Parmenides?
No. He had a couple of Mendes on him at all times.
That's it. A Parmenides.
That's old Tommy Two Mendes over there. Got a pair of Mendes on him.
This was also he was a student of his, but they also, a lot of rumors are that they were
gay together,
gay lovers, and
they did a lot of
did
gay loving back then, which is fine. Hits for us,
of course, that's fine.
But they loved it.
Of course,
they loved fucking butts.
But was
and
that
all
okay in Greece?
I think so.
Like here's what I'm saying. I know that they did it a lot, but like, was it a law that you couldn't, and they were just like, it's for us, so whatever?
I mean, I guess on the one hand, I wouldn't be surprised if the politicians of the time did have a law, but still fuck butts anyway.
Right.
But based on what I've always heard about the sheer number of butts that they fucked back then,
dude,
it couldn't have been much of a faux pas.
Can I tell you something?
I know they were definitely fuzzy on the age of consent.
Yeah, that too, yeah.
I mean, it was always a boy's butt.
Always
that's for
a boy's
sure.
Butt.
So
yeah, it's.
I'm gonna go on record here as saying
it
that
was a different time.
Everything I've read and every movie I've ever seen, the ancient Greeks and Romans were the butt fucking the sons of bitch
Right,
that had
that's
ever
what I'm
lived.
saying. Yeah, right, exactly.
They-
That's like one of the top things everybody knows about them.
Let no
they
butt go
stayed-
unfucked.
Absolutely, they
Yeah.
stayed fucking butts, dude.
So they think that that's his gay lover again, which is fine. They were both from the colony of Elea, which of course is where his name Zeno of Elea comes from. But they moved.
That makes sense.
Yeah, right. But they can't. We don't do that as much anymore.
No,
Back
you're not
then they
Corey
did. I'm
of
not Corey of
Chickamauga.
Chickamauga. You know,
What kind of
and
hit
that's
if you were, I guess.
it would, but it wouldn't hit for them.
No.
I'm not Corey of Chickamauga because they're like, don't be saying
we don't
that.
claim him.
That
no.
don't hit.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine? And I'm sure you have imagined this, but like, imagine if, like, you know, next month somebody that works in the city of Chickamauga decided that they were going to put a welcome sign to Chickamauga that said "Home of Comedian Corey Forrester." How quickly that would have live human shit thrown on it.
Absolutely,
And
dude.
you
No.
too.
Oh yeah, no. In my hometown, there's two signs that I'm aware of when you enter Salina. One of them says "Home of the 1992 Marbles Champion,"
And
then
the biggest bass.
yes, what? Yeah, the home of that. Yeah,
Controversial.
home of the. It is controversial. Yes, home of the world record smallmouth bass. Home of the Marbles Champion. And recently, there's this kid. He's actually playing for UT this year. Shout out Tyreek Key. He's fucking awesome.
Tyreek Key.
Tyreek Key.
Tyreek Key. Chris Key, brother.
No, but he's a real hitting basketball player. He won Mr. Basketball. He went to Indiana State. He hit real hard.
Oh,
for him.
yeah, I know him.
Now
I know
he
him.
has transferred
to Tennessee,
Transferred
right?
to Tennessee.
Yeah.
I'm super pumped about it. He's fucking great. Anyway, but he on a sign already, and that
Dude,
hits
let's
for me.
get a jersey.
That hits for me just fine. That he's on.
Should
a
we
sign
get a
already,
jersey?
but I'm saying, like, dude, they ain't never even put me in the paper.
No,
not
hell
even
no.
not even to call me a queer in the paper.
Yeah,
like,
right.
My existence
We ain't wasting ink.
goes unacknowledged in Salina.
Can we get? We should get jerseys of him
Yeah, all right,
that we
that
wear.
hits.
I would actually wear. Now, only for like a photo shoot or something. Even though I'm a Dogs fan, I'd support you, hometown boy. I
Yeah,
would.
Salina boy, baby.
So, like I said, he was a student of the philosopher Parmenides. They both moved in around 450 BC to Athens because it's like that's like a comedian moving to New York. It's like I've been doing all this.
He's doing like bar shows for philosophy.
Yeah, he's doing philosophizing.
He's going
Is it
down to, like-
philosophizing?
yeah, he's
Yeah.
going down to like the local vomit room.
Yeah,
or whatever,
exactly. Y'all know what I think?
And thinking about stuff.
Let me
and
tell you
they're
what
like-
I think,
they're like,
right?
dude, you know,
You're too good.
You're too good at thinking. You're gonna have to go. You're gonna have to level up, dude. You're wasting your thinking talents around this shithole.
Fucking Parmenides looks at him one day like Ben Affleck from Good Will Hunting. He's like, you know what I dream? I dream every day that I will come over to your house to think, and I'll open your stone door, and you won't be there.
You'll be all fucking some other butt.
But in Greece. So, so they moved to Athens around 450 BCE, where they become buds with a hot young upstart philosopher. You may have heard of him, Socrates.
Oh,
Yeah, so
name
these
dropping
all
all
around
right.
the same time.
Yeah.
These dudes lived. This was like being a philosopher then was sort of like when Hemingway was in France. You know what I mean? Riding
yeah.
with F. Scott
Socrates,
Fitzgerald.
Plato, Aristotle, they all overlapped. Aristotle was like Alexander the Great's tutor when he
Yeah.
was a kid and shit.
Yeah.
Which on the one hand is wild as hell, but it also is like it makes sense that all the hitting is people from that very famous era of hitting.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
That's why that era hits as hard as
like
it
the
does.
resonance, like, yeah, right,
It's
exactly.
because they had all those guys.
The comedy boom in the 70s and 80s.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
they were all these dudes.
Right.
Ollie Frazier era of boxing.
All these dudes were in New York at the same time. How was that not going to be one of the craziest, boomingest eras? And it just happens to work out like that sometimes, which is fucking awesome. And they all hit it off, and it really had a lasting effect on Socrates. Like, he was young and he heard these guys. He's like, these guys really think.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I like the way you think.
If you think about it, these guys, they really think. So Socrates, of course, goes on to be like, I mean, he's
the GOAT.
He's probably, but it's him. Like, you think if somebody get
Plato, Aristotle, Socrates,
right? If you go to anyone
three.
and you go, name me a philosopher, they're going to say one of those things. I would say Socrates. I would say the order of when they're going to say that, what they'll say is probably Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, maybe.
So Socrates was like younger.
He was younger than
So
these
he'd
dudes.
be like, people would say Kobe or LeBron. You know?
Yeah, for sure. He was definitely the Kobe Bryant of philosophizing
Socrates is
at the
Jordan.
time. Yeah, for sure. Just a young upstart. And so as with anything from the BC era, there's not really much about his actual life. Like, there's no records or anything like that. But there is a decent amount said about his death and people positing on how they think it might have happened, which, of course, none of this could be true, or all of it could be true. Fuck, I don't know. Some say that he was involved in a conspiracy plot against some high-up people, perhaps like a politician, and this dude named Nearchus, Nearchus, which that's Nearchus. Nearchus, whatever.
Nearchus, maybe?
Nearchus. And when this plot failed, he was questioned, tortured, and killed. Some say that they're like, no, that's bullshit. Him and Nearchus hit for each other. Like, they really liked each other. And then some say I
don't trust this guy.
No, I don't. Oh, is that from Rome?
Yeah.
The
maybe.
show? Okay.
Maybe.
So some say they're like, no, that is all true, but it goes a step further. While he was being interrogated, to show how much that he wasn't willing to talk, he bit his own tongue off, spit it at Nearchus, and then leapt at Nearchus and bit Nearchus's nose off. And I'm like, I think we'd have heard about that.
This is one of those things that we're talking about where it's like, this is the official account. That's what we have to go on. So that's what everybody says happened. But, like, surely that ain't happened.
Surely to God.
It'd be so hard to bite your own tongue off and then be still riled up enough to spit it in their face and then bite their nose off after all that. Like, you got to be on one, dude.
Think about spitting.
Meth, particularly, a whole bunch of it.
And I thought about this a lot. Think about spitting. Obviously, spitting, you use your lips, but you use your tongue to present the thing to your lips to spit it. So if you've bitten your tongue off, how are you like you're like?
It's also, dude, it's like, it's really, you know, it's admitting like my thinking days are behind me, or at least my talking about thinking days are behind me. You know?
I mean?
You
still think.
I can still think, but I ain't gonna be talking about thinking no more after this, and I'm okay with that, as long as I can eat that motherfucker's nose in the process.
Right. Like, imagine somebody being like, "That apple fell on the top of my head."
Yeah, they're like, he don't hit it.
He
thinking.
don't hit. Get him the fuck out of here.
Ain't no way that motherfucker hits it thinking.
So most of his paradoxes, by the way, were in relation to time and space, which he found to be bullshit, both time and space. Which most paradoxes that hit for me are related to time and space. But, like, those were two things that, like, while he was like thinking, he was just like, time, space.
I don't know about that.
Absolutely not.
I'm not convinced.
So he had the opposite views on everyone when it came to time and space, whereas most people shared the belief that everything changes. His opinion was that nothing changes, which he explains by saying, begin with the assumption, begin with the assumption that the universe contains objects of various sizes. If an object has a size, then it must have parts. Therefore, it is not a single object, but rather a conglomeration of smaller ones.
He was right about
A
that.
true individual object must have no size, but an object with no size is nothing at all, and any conglomeration of no-sized objects will itself have no size, and therefore is also nothing.
See, now this is where I would go. I think you're overthinking it.
Agree.
Which is sort of how they did a lot of things. But yeah, he had me there for a minute because it's like this dude predicted atoms.
Right.
But then he went a little further and made it wild. I gotta say, I feel like it had to be easier to be a pro thinker
Back before
then
the internet?
because not even just the internet. Like people hadn't really started thinking
About
yet.
nothing. No,
Like,
nobody
but
thought
before
about
then,
shit.
Nobody thought about.
That's why these guys
nothing.
hit so hard.
That's what I'm saying. Like they were really the first ones to be like, let's think about.
I mean,
stuff.
dude,
because before that, people were just fucking pooping and trying not to die.
I mean,
not really thinking about shit.
I mean, not to go immediately back to the correlation we made about these philosophers and the stand-up boom, but that's kind of exactly how stand-up was.
Nobody
Stand-up
had
was
made
so
all the
new.
bits yet. Yeah.
Stand-up was so new that, like, of course, the dudes who started it hit real hard.
Mm-hmm.
No one had ever done it before. No one had thought, I'm just going to go on stage and tell jokes
Mm-hmm.
and not dance. And you know what I'm saying? So, like, yeah, of course, the people we consider the goats are those people. And it's like, because they fucking invented it. Like, they didn't have nobody to go off and shit like that. The note that I wrote to myself about what I just read that he said was, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So now let us get into his most famous paradox, which is the thing that you said you think was the thing that you knew about this feller. This paradox is called, sorry, I'm still out of breath from COVID. I'm not going to, this paradox is called the racehorse. Zeno's paradox of Achilles and the tortoise purports to show that the swift-moving Achilles can never overtake a slow-moving tortoise. So in this, the tortoise has a head start on him, right?
And Achilles got to catch up to
No
it.
matter how fast he runs and no matter how long the race. In the racecourse paradox, also known as the dichotomy, bold, Zeno goes a step further. He demonstrates that no athlete, however swift, can ever reach the end of a race course. Here's how. In order for an athlete to run the length of a race course, he must first reach the halfway point.
Right.
This leaves him half of the original distance left to cover.
Right.
In order to run this remaining distance, he must first run half of it.
Right.
This leaves him with a quarter of the racehorse left to cover. In order to run this remaining quarter of the race course, he must first run half of it, which leaves him with 1/8 of the race course still to cover. But this process goes on forever.
On and
The
on.
athlete can complete the race only by running an infinite number of ever diminishing distances, but this is impossible since no one can cover an infinite number of distances in a finite time. Therefore, the athlete cannot reach the end of the race course. Precisely the same reasoning applies to anyone or anything traveling anywhere. Achilles can never reach the end of the race course, and neither can the tortoise. Neither you nor I can so much as cross from one side of a room to the other. Indeed, nothing can travel anywhere, since moving even the merest inch requires first traveling ½ inch, then a 1/4 inch, then a 1/3 of an inch, and then so on. To which, again, I must say, I don't know.
Yeah, people would just be like, you could set up the thing and be like, I mean, he caught that turtle though.
Right.
You know what I mean? I crossed this room though.
I got over there.
But first of all, I just like to say, I feel like that's pretty much how I described it earlier.
It's exactly,
Yeah,
no,
right.
I was actually, I'm not kidding. I was bummed. I was like, shit.
Yeah.
Like he said the thing I'm closing with.
So, well, yeah, it's the only thing I knew about the guy. But like, was the idea sort of with these thinkers? Was it them just illustrating how, like, you know, if you really think about all this stuff, things don't seem to make sense.
Right.
Like, despite our, like, shared experiences, we all see Achilles whooped this turtle's ass in a foot race.
But
We all see that. But if you break it down in terms of math and numbers and how we understand the universe, it shouldn't be able to be. And thus, there are things we don't understand because this shit ain't checking out.
And therefore,
Is
there
that
must
really
be a
all
God.
they were highlighting? Is like they were the first ones to just be like, you know, shit's wild when you think about it.
Dude.
And people were like, God damn, dude, shit is wild when you think about it. And then we've been doing it ever since.
I just kind of think that, like, those dudes were just like the stoners of their time. Like, they were doing, I guess where they were from, it was they were drinking a lot of wine and maybe taking opium and shit like that. And fucking
What's that poison that they've poisoned everybody with?
Oh, arsenic?
No, hemlock.
Hemlock. I don't know about that.
Fucked up on hemlock.
I don't know if they poisoned him, but like, yeah. So like, I think that they were just like, and I didn't look into like any of these people's like actual family background. It wouldn't surprise me to know that they all came from wealthy backgrounds, because that's the kind of life you need to be able to have in order to have time to just sit there and go,
and think.
I don't know.
Exactly.
But like, I don't know, man. Like, I read a lot of Reddit threads where people are like giving like, you know, one of my favorite is fan theories from shows where people, you know, where people are just like, well, actually, if you look at this episode, Walter White did this, and therefore that blah blah blah. That's not an example at all, but you get what I'm saying. And I think that like these dudes were just the earliest versions of that. And no one had ever thought about that shit before, and therefore
it's really
they're
hit
like,
for all those Reddit commenters that you are describing them as modern day philosophers. Well, they're going to be like, I've been saying it, dude.
Well, really,
That's what I've been in my basement trying to do this whole time.
Well, but here's the thing. Actually, what I'm saying is that I think the old day philosophers were
Also
just as stupid. We're just as stupid as Reddit. It's in reverse. I'm like, I don't really think that these guys were on to much. I think that they just had a lot of time to fuck around, and they're the old version of Reddit commenters.
I had just a couple questions before you wrap up, because I like these thought experiment things too. You guys have heard of Schrodinger's cat?
Of course. Okay. It's either dead or alive, or it's neither.
So here's one that's...
It's dead, by the way.
Yeah.
Because a cat can't live without water, food, and fucking air. It's dead.
But it ain't dead until you observe it.
No, it's dead.
I know. Yeah, it's...
right.
Again, that's where I'm just like, no, the cat dead.
So, this one's really cool. It's kind of based on that. So if you want to go down a rabbit hole at 3 a.m, quantum suicide and immortality.
Okay.
That's very interesting. And then you probably know the allegory of the cave. Obviously, that's more...
Yeah, that's Plato, right?
Yeah, that one's awesome too.
It's like basically if you're sitting... Like if you think about sitting in a cave chained to the floor or whatever, a cave, and you... Behind you is the light, so it's casting shadows on the wall, and you see the shadows on the wall, right? And that's the only way you have to experience anything, but you know nothing of
the light behind you.
And the outside world and what's going on and whatever. Like, and so it's like we're all living in that cave, like we're only able to.
We're only seeing shadows.
We're only seeing the shadows cast on the wall because we don't have the larger frame of reference for everything.
Oh, wow.
Now, dude, some of these dudes. Some of this shit hit that they come up with.
I was being funny. Like those are, dude, to have that thought is brilliant. Mm-hmm. Even though it makes, the fact that it makes no sense makes it brilliant. Yeah. And with Airheads' permission, I would like to do more philosophy with Professor Cho, if that's okay, because I had a lot of fun on this.
I want you to look up the drunk, naked, crazy thinking man.
That's in my book.
Is it?
It's in my book.
He was wild. I can't remember his name right now, but there was a drunk, naked, crazy pro thinker back then, and he was on some shit.
He's in my book, and I'm pretty sure that's how they describe him.
Cover him in the future.
Okay, for sure.
All right.
As long as y'all like it, I'll keep doing them.
Well, all right.
Hey.
Great episode, but
I almost
it ain't
just
done
sang
yet.
the Well Red song.
It ain't done yet.
No, it's not.
Here comes Clearing the Airs for you. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2,
I love
3,
that
4.
shit.
Royalty and rednecks are alike. They both like cutting and picking fights. Biscuits and baked beans where they don't belong. Sit on down with Corey and Trae and learn some fancy shit today. We'll laugh a little even when they're wrong. They'll take you to a magical place where if you call someone a cunt, nobody cares. They keep it debonair at Puttin On Airs. Puttin On Airs. Puttin On Airs. Puttin On Airs.
So this is Being Depressed and Zeno.
Yep.
You listen to it?
Nope.
The hell?
But no, here's the thing, Trae. I did not. This is the first week that I haven't had time to listen to the episode in a very long time. But let me tell you this. I know for a fact that we didn't get anything wrong. And here's how I know. Me and you are absolute professionals at talking about depression. We know it through and through. Maybe you got a number wrong, maybe you got a stat wrong, but like I will put me and you talking about depression up there with anybody else talking about anything. And as far as Zeno the philosopher goes, I mean, we read his philosophy word for word. Now, I'm certain that we were wrong in our interpretation, but an opinion cannot be wrong, Trae.
I just remember, I feel like it was this episode because I know it had to do with depression. I remember getting the impression, I remember there being a slight disconnect. It's so funny because, again, if either or both of us had just listened to this episode before doing this, the ostensible purpose of this whole segment, which I have neglected for 6 straight weeks now or whatever, but if we had done that, then I wouldn't need to speculate. I could just point to a direct timestamp of when this happened. I wouldn't need to, comb back in my memory. But I feel like I remember you being like I don't know how to put it. Like you were like, wait a minute. So you're making it sound like people can become depressed or something like that. Like you were like, so you're telling me that depression is a thing that can develop in people or something like that.
Yes,
I remember being
being
like,
diabetes.
yeah, because I remember being like, well, yeah, anyway, other than that,
I thought
that's the
that
only
you
part
either
of it I
had
remember.
I thought that you either had the gene that could make you depressed or you didn't. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know about that. That may also be true, but I think let's say that you're born with that gene. You've got the depression gene. I think
unlock.
It can be triggered. There can be a catalyst that unlocks it. I mean, dude, people that go through fucking, horrific shit and trauma and stuff, and then they end up, it has an effect on you.
Well, but also, like, drug use literally rewires your brain, and like the wiring of your brain is how depression gets you. So yeah, I think we were just. I think I knew. I just didn't know what you were talking about at the time. Like, here's my thing. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, I was depressed for blah blah blah," and really what they mean is I was sad. You know what I mean? Because like depression and sad are not synonyms realistically. I mean, you can be. When you're depressed, you are sad, but just because you're sad doesn't mean you're depressed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had a friend die this week. There's a lot of people right now who are sad. They don't all of a sudden have the disease of depression. They are just sad. But yeah, when you said that, it totally made sense. It's like, oh, right. Like, I think it could just be because like depression is, these things in your brain are supposed to fire off and they're not firing off. And yeah, it makes sense that later in life, your brain could get rewired and be doing that.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about the episode on account of, neglecting my responsibilities once again. But I did want to tell you that this feller, I guess I'll just use his first name because he didn't send me this in the hopes that I would say anything about it on this deal here. But one of my patrons on Patreon, by the way, you can go to patreon.com/Trae Crowder if you want to check out what I'm doing over there. Named Eric, he sent me a message that was basically like, he was like, I love you. I love Corey. I love you both. But y'all are two of the sorriest, like, and he meant, I should have like took a screenshot of it so I could just read it, but he meant like, he's like, y'all literally made a whole supplemental addition to your new podcast intended just for apologizing for everything else you did. He was like, I've never seen two comedians who apologize for themselves more than you two. He was like, you don't have to do that. Like, it's fine. We like you. We think you're funny. Stop apologizing so much. So he called us the two sorriest comedians he knew, but he meant it like
that's
literally.
We're being sorry.
Yeah, in the literal sense. Instead of just like sorry ass. But anyway, I read that
segment,
and it cracked me up, and I wanted to tell you about it. So I thought you would appreciate it.
I would say more people actually wish we apologize more, if I had to guess, just knowing how the internet be. But I think that this segment has slowly evolved into mainly Airmail, which really hits for me.
Right.
Because
I think at least part of that is because,
we're not sorry about
at least for me. Well, and at least for me, I'm not even listening to the goddamn episodes anymore.
Right, yeah. Kind of hard to do it when you're not listening.
Yeah, I don't even know what I should be apologizing for. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, last week
I still listened to the show for the record, but like, I'm real behind on my own show, basically.
Yeah. Hey, it's okay. People are here for the Airmail. And by the way, we didn't talk about it last week, but last week was the Anastasia 2.0, and we got so many wonderful comments that most of y'all listening are smart people. I'll say that. Not many people have that in an audience, but we do have that in an audience. And they were just like, oh, haha, it took me a couple minutes, but I totally get it. This is great, whatever. Some people, however, were like, I don't know how it's possible, but Corey is somehow more wrong now than he was the first time, and never realized I was doing a bit, which to me makes me feel good at like from my acting skills. But the best message that we got, and I can't find it in my email here, but I will just wrap it up a little bit. The person who had originally sent me the email absolutely shitting all over my butt and into my mouth about me getting Anastasia wrong sent an apology letter saying like, oh my God, I get it. I was too harsh. Please don't ever do this again. I will never send a defamatory email again. I get it. I have learned my lesson. And I got to tell you guys, we don't get a lot of W's like that. You know what I mean? So I feel really good about it. Speaking of Airmail, Trae, would you like me to go ahead and kick off some here?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
hey, wait, well, hold on. Actually, making that noise made me remember that Katie asked me last night. Okay, so ask me if I know something. Ask me like a question that has an answer. You know, like what temperature is it out there?
Hey, Trae, yeah. What's the weather like out there in Burbank?
Okay, that thing I just did. Mm-hmm. That's a very common thing that everybody do, right?
Of course.
Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Katie,
dumb
last
people,
night,
but you know,
Katie, but like
but
if you
counts,
but you don't do that.
Yeah. Yes, I said dumb people.
Right.
Yeah, I go.
Well, you just
now I more go. I don't know, but it's
right.
a version of I don't know where you don't even have to open your mouth, which I know hits for you.
Yeah. Right.
Of course, that's a thing.
I know. Well, so you guys supposed
Katie's a fucking idiot.
And I said, and it reminded me that last night Katie asked me something and I went, and she goes, is that a thing that people do? Or is that just like, she was like, is that just like,
stupid?
It's just that, no, she didn't even mean me. She was like, is that just a us thing? Cause I heard Bishop doing that earlier and it made me wonder is that like just something we do? Or, and I was like, I'm pretty sure everybody does that. Yeah, right. And anyway, she's going to hear this because she'd be listening. She already got mad at me because in a recent episode, I was talking about her being perpetually late, which I guess I'll let everybody know. She contests that assertion. No, I'm saying she protests that assertion.
Well, I obviously don't know your wife as well as you do, but just based on my limited experience with Katie, she has been late to everything that we as a group were doing. Like every single time. If she says that hey, me and Trae are doing this at 3, can you be back? And by the way, I don't give a shit. You're like, do your thing. I'm used to it with my wife. I'm not shitting on you for doing it, but I am shitting on you for the audacity to act like that ain't how you be when that is exactly how you be.
Yeah.
Amber be that way too. Now Amber would be like, yeah, that is how I be.
All right. Well, I rest my case. Anyway, okay, you just made me think of all that. But
no, we do noises like I go and like I do like I'll go like full Tim Allen. Like if Amber says something and it's like wild, I'll be like, woo, you know, like I stay using less when could do more. You know what I mean? It's my thing. All right, here we go. Airmail. Subject line: binge listening to 30 episode and realizing I'm history dumb. Good morning, Corey and Trae. I've spent the last 3 weeks binge listening to the Puttin On Airs podcast and have finally caught up to the most recent episodes. I've got a couple comments relating to past episodes because I took AP U.S. history, and high school and a couple history classes in college. I thought I was a history buff. I was completely wrong. Every time I hear a History with Professor Cho segment, I either think I know nothing about this subject or, wow, what he is saying makes a lot of sense and is pretty cool. Only to find out in next week's Airmail segment that Cho was completely wrong and I shouldn't have believed a word he said. Corey, congrats on being a dad-to-be. I've got a 14-month-old of my own and she is my whole world. I'm a Midwesterner from rural Wisconsin. I now live in Green Bay. Go Packers, but not Brett Favre. But originally grew up in a village of 200 people. I had a friend in college tell me that if you were more than an hour outside of any metropolitan area, you're in the South. And boy, was he right. My hometown and the neighboring towns were about as red as it gets. I, like both of you, grew up in a liberal family in the heart of red country. Well, that ain't me, brother, but so I saw a lot of redneck stuff as a kid. I still have friends from my high school posting pictures on Facebook of Confederate flags with text over them saying heritage, not hate. You're from Wisconsin. That's not your heritage. Oh, God. There is so much I would love to comment on about this podcast, but I don't want this email to be ridiculously long. Hilarious. So, so the last thing I want to mention is the Yard Games episode. By the way, I've cut 3 paragraphs out of this before I even said that.
All right.
The last thing I want to mention is the Yard Games episode. In Wisconsin, everyone calls it bags. My family also enjoys some croquet. Is it croquet or croquet? Croquet, because we're fancy. Adjacent to yard game, there are croquettes, and they're the things that we eat. Adjacent to yard games are tailgate games. My token FIB friend, every Wisconsin has to have one. FIB, my token FIB. What do you think that means?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
He said he's got a baby and whatever. FWB is friends with benefits. It's not that.
Yeah.
FIB is. I don't know.
No idea. It says every Wisconsinite has to have one. And it's weird that they just thought I would know FIB. It's clearly something we should know. He used to play beer darts in the parking lot before Brewers game, a simple game where 2 people sit a distance apart from each other with a beer full beer cans between their feet, or if they are insane, between their thighs. You take turns.
So listen, I don't know why he thought anybody other than other cheese people like himself, other Wisconsinites would know this, but I guess it stands for Friendly Illinois Buddy or Friendly Illinois Brethren.
Yeah.
It says polite form of a derogatory nickname for Illinois residents in Wisconsin.
There you go.
That says that's a polite term, so I wonder what the real fucking Illinois bastard or something. I don't know. I don't see that. I'm just trying to figure out where it is. Yeah, it's that's the polite version of it anyway.
So beer darts, Trae.
I'm gonna keep looking.
You sit with full beer cans between your feet, or if you're insane, your thighs, and you take turns throwing a steel-tipped dart at your opponent's beer can, and when it hits and punctures the can, they have to shotgun the beer. That's wild as hell.
Yeah, that is, I guess.
So that was from our new fan Abe Pluger. He says, P.S. Your Midwestern accents are awful yet hilarious. You either sound like you're trying and failing to do a Charlie Barron's impersonation, or you created a weird bastardized mixture of the Chicago accent and the Yooper accent. Well, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, that's
don't
right.
You know?
Get the fuck out of here with that.
Yeah, with your fucking
go
bullshit.
Eat some more fucking cheese curds. Why don't you? Yeah, how about that? Whoopsie daisy. Go Badgers. Go Badgers.
Oh, made a
And
whoopsie
it
diddly
does
on our
mean
accent.
Fucking Illinois bastard. That's what it.
Okay, good.
That
good
is
for
what
you,
it,
Trae. Look at you.
It is what it stands for. Yeah.
Here we have subject line holiday alert from Christina Key. Hello, skewers. Before the month is over, I wanted to let you guys know that October is Squirrel Awareness Month. Celebrate as you will. As always, love the show. Christina from Gatlinburg, Tennessee, which I got to tell you, didn't think was a place that you could be from. I thought
Rick's old lady was from Gatlinburg.
Is that where she stripped?
No, I don't think we ain't got to get into all that now, buddy. That'd be wild. A strip club in Gatlinburg would be wild, dude.
It would hit, too.
Yeah, but pouring
all their
syrup
titties
on
sticky from
themselves
pancakes.
and shit.
Yeah, nice. But hey, look at that. Look at that.
That was a good
last
but
one
I said
here,
the same thing when I found that out. I was like, I had no idea that anyone actually like grew up in Gatlinburg because it's
like Los Angeles or Vegas.
People. Yeah, right. I'm fascinated by people that grew up in a place like that.
Yeah, me too. Like you can't that's such a wild. Imagine growing up there and then the first time you went to a normal place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. So it is apparently Squirrel Awareness Month. annual event held in October to raise awareness of squirrels. Like,
We're all aware.
I think we're all pretty aware of fucking squirrels. Everybody's aware of them. See them all over. Apparently, we vary wildly in how we perceive and feel about them, but we're all generally aware of them. We invented one of those. Just so everybody know, when we were, there's so many different types of awareness weeks and awareness months and stuff. And I believe we made it in February. Never really caught on, but we tried to invent dickhole catfish awareness week or month. What was it?
Was month. It was a month because we were
catfish awareness month, because we felt like people weren't aware enough of them dickhole catfish they got down there in Brazil and the Amazon.
Yeah. So if you're not aware, which I don't think you are, otherwise we wouldn't have had to devise this month. There are these little amoeba-sized catfish that will crawl in your dick hole if you're in Brazil, and they're scientifically called Dicholius catfishes, and we need to be aware of them because you think piranhas are bad. Get you a dick hole catfish.
You don't want
come
no
back and tell me
catfish.
about it. No, come back and tell me about your dick hole catfish. All right, last one. We'll keep it short because we got to get out of here. Subject line, I have a topic thought. This is from longtime contributor Phoenix Hauser, and I think this is a good idea, and I wanted to bring it to your attention, Trae. Here's the thing that both trash... Here's the thing that it's a little complicated, but I think you'll get there. There's this thing both trash and class like, and then there's historical figures that kind of embody aspects of trash and class simultaneously. For an example, I put forth the idea of the gentleman outlaw, and there has been a bunch. Black Bart is probably my favorite, which I think that you could argue that a guy like Doc Holliday would probably fit this mold. You know what I'm saying? Okay. He's a super sophisticated guy, but he's also a trashy poker playing drunk ne'er-do-well. So I'm for that. And I say that just because we could pretend that it counts just so we could talk about Tombstone on the show. And I'm absolutely for that. And I think everybody'd be all right with it.
I love a good gentleman bastard for sure.
I do too. I do too.
Yeah, that's for me.
Well, all right. That was the Airmail. That was the Airmail. Remember, you can find my bonus stuff at parttimefunnyman.com. You can get Trae's over at patreon.com/Trae Crowder. Also, come see us on the road. Trae is burning the road up right now. You can find where he's going to be at TraeCrowder.com, and you can also find tickets for our joint shows together. And the next one we have coming up is December 15th through the 17th at Zany's in Nashville, our home club, our homecoming shows, our Christmas shows. It's going to be fun. They always sell out, so grab your tickets now. And remember, stay fancy, motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm.